In this video, we're going to discuss how the traumatic events that a person experiences might affect them now and in the future. A traumatic event is one that threatens a person's life or body, or the life or body of someone close to the person. Traumatic events include things like natural disasters, assault, accidents, or fires. Many people experience repeated trauma, though, called complex trauma, which can have different long-term effects. Examples include war, prison, abuse, domestic violence, or estrangement from family. Prison is traumatic. It is dangerous and often without any sense of safety. It also takes you away from your healthy and safe relationships. For many of you, trauma was a formative part of your life before imprisonment, and it may even have contributed to the reasons that you were arrested. For those of you who didn't experience trauma before prison, imprisonment itself brought trauma into your experience. It is important to understand how trauma might be affecting you, the strategies that you develop to survive that trauma, and what steps you can take to overcome these effects if they are having a negative effect on your life. For many people, specific trauma therapy is necessary. When someone experiences trauma, they learn that the world is not always safe and that bad things can happen. They may learn that others can't always be trusted. This sometimes causes a profound shift in their worldviews, and they may shift much of their focus and energy to keeping bad things from happening to them. It also affects the way that a person's brain works and what kind of strategies they might use in situations in the future. When a person experiences trauma, their body prepares them to fight, flee, or freeze. It does this with a flood of hormones that allow the limbs to have enough energy to do what will be required. After an isolated traumatic event, the body generally returns to a state of relaxation and safety in a relatively short time. If the emotional experience and memory is strong and persistent enough, this return may not be quick or total. In cases of repeated trauma, the body learns that safety isn't the norm. The body will stay more often in this survival mode. Remember the video about how we're made when we talked about what happens to our bodies when we're walking down the street and see a lion? It's natural for our bodies to respond this way. But what happens to people who've experienced trauma is that they might encounter a little kitty cat on that street and they see a lion instead. So the pain and fear of seeing a lion happens over and over with that cat. The reason why that happens is that our brains are banged up. For people who've experienced trauma, our brains cause us to react automatically to things because our brain actually sends our experiences right to the back of our brain instead of to the front where the decision making happens. How many of you did something while you were locked up where you thought after, that was fucked up? Why did I do that? That's because your decision was made at the back of your brain, and when you thought about it later, you wouldn't have made that decision. There was a girl that I knew who had a child who was repeatedly sexually abused. Her family thought they could trust a family member who abused her. Fast forward, she's in college. She's on the road like all of us, traveling. She's working towards an education. She's at finals time. She's working hard, studying hard. Every day, she rides the bus to get to school. Well, one day, she gets on the bus. On her way to her exam, she sits down. And at the next stop, a guy gets on the bus. 6'2", beard, lumberjack shirt. She sees the guy, and boom! The back part of her brain automatically reacts because this man reminds her of her uncle, the abuser. This causes her body to go into fight or flight reaction. At the next stop, she jumps off the bus. Think about what had been her goal that morning and think about what actually happened instead. What happened to her so that she couldn't pursue the goal that she woke up with that morning? She wanted to take that test, but she had to jump off that bus and she didn't reach her goal that day. She wasn't able to get what she needed in life because it was still being controlled by the trauma she experienced. We all struggle with that kind of thing. We have to be aware as individuals of our own trauma and how that's affected us, what our survival strategies have been, so that we can work to rewire our brains to meet our goals now. We keep seeing lions where there are only kitty cats. If you fought, if you fled, if you froze, you will likely do that again and again whenever you encounter similar situations. And it is hard work to change your reactions, to allow the front part of our brains to make the best decisions for us. People may accuse you of being dumb or making dumb choices, but really, you might be acting without making any choice because you're reacting automatically in the way that helped you survive in the past. But this keeps us from being on the road to happiness and prosperity. You find yourself on the side of the road again and again. There are common strategies developed from experiencing trauma that you might recognize in yourself. First, avoidance. Traumatized people may avoid anything associated with the trauma or even things remotely related to the memory. Next is hypervigilance. Trauma can cause survivors to feel that they have to be ready for bad things to happen all the time, so they are at greater level of alertness and suspicion at all times. Hyperarousal. When things happen to survivors, they may be more likely to interpret those things as bad or threatening, so that they are more likely to respond to events with strong emotions and a more ready flight or fight response. Then there's numbness. Because of the powerful emotions of trauma, many survivors have developed a numbing of emotions to cope with that overpowering experience. They may remain numb to many events in life and apply this numbness in particularly difficult circumstances. They may also have engaged in numbness during the trauma and have no conscious memory of what happened. This is called disassociation. Finally, substance abuse or unhealthy behaviors. Many survivors seek to avoid or numb memories of trauma with substances. They may also seek out thrills, work, or risky situations that will distract them from those memories. If you've experienced a lot of trauma, you might experience some other powerful symptoms occasionally. First, re-experiencing. The memory of the trauma can return vividly so that a person thinks of the event very frequently or even feels that they are reliving the events. There's also something called affect dysregulation, unregulated emotions. Trauma survivors may experience emotions that are not typically appropriate to a situation or experience, and they'll have these emotions that are out of balance, too strong for a particular circumstance because they are sensitized by traumatic memories. In particular, two different types of circumstances tend to prompt these coping strategies or symptoms of trauma to be activated. First, circumstances that are similar to the trauma, and second, intense but neutral stimuli like loud noises or raised voices. These reactions actually reinforce the idea that the world is a dangerous place and that there is no appropriate time to relax. The positive side to all of this is that people who have been through trauma often develop something called resilience. This is the term used to describe the concept of what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. Of course, we shouldn't want bad things to happen to us in order for us to gain strength. But for many of us, bad things have happened, and we have grown because of these experiences. We are strong and we have specific knowledge or skills to help others in these difficult situations and to help us in the future if bad things should happen again. We are resilient.